Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back to our channel. Nigeria is in dire need of help, obviously, and of course, our President Muhammadu Buhari, is already in United Nations General Assembly. One would wonder what exactly is he doing there. Well, in a moment, we're going to find out exactly what he's asking, pleading for, and what has been, bedeviling African continent, particularly Nigeria. He said quite a lot. We're going to go through a cross section of all the things he has said. But before we do so, like and subscribe to our channel by clicking on the red subscribe button beside it. You see a bell notification icon. Please go ahead, click on it to get notified as soon as we update our channel on YouTube. Well, it looks like President Muhammad Buhari allegedly had begged the world leaders for debt cancellation at United Nations General Assembly. President Muhammad Buhari has asked world leaders to consider developing states facing fiscal and liquidity challenges and consider them for debt suspension, including outright cancellation. He stated this on Friday while addressing world leaders at the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York. Buhari said, and I quote, "On the issue of debt, we have seen that the developing countries have been faced with unsustainable debt burdens even before the pandemic. The pandemic has increased the risk of new wave of deepening debt where vital public financial resources are allocated to external debt servicing and repayment at the expense of domestic health and financing for critical development needs, or rather developmental needs. I must commend the current initiatives by the international financial institutions and the G20 aimed at significantly mitigating the economic situation of the indebted countries and urge for more effort in this regard. Therefore, there is an urgent need to consider expansion and an extension of debt service suspension initiative to include all developing and least developed countries and small island developing states facing fiscal and liquidity challenges. In addition, a review of eligibility criteria for debt suspension, including outright cancellation, is needed for countries facing the most severe challenges. Nigeria reaffirms that international trade is an engine for development and sustained economic growth, as well as the global eradication of poverty. My delegation would like to reaffirm the critical role that a universal rules-based, open, non-discriminatory, and equitable multilateral trading system can play in stimulating economic growth and development. Fair and equitable trade would eventually eliminate the need for aid. My country, and indeed all African countries, do not intend to stay indefinitely looking for aid. All we need is a fair and equitable system of international trade. Buhari's plea comes amid Nigerians towering external debt, which is at least $33 billion. Who is going to cancel that one? The government, despite public outcries, has further approached the national for more debt. See, Nigeria, my country, I hate thee. Sometimes it's good to just laugh this thing outside. You don't have a heart attack. You understand? Now, as usual, we have gone cap in hand. As usual, this is so embarrassing. They have one head. We have one head. Created by the same creator. What is all of this? The bad part about this whole thing, you're asking for debt control, debt cancellation, outright debt cancellation in some parts, or suspension, or consideration, moratorium, whatever English or terminology you're saying. These countries borrow out, lend out money to make profit or probably to help. And when it's time for repayment, you're saying, please now, I beg now, please consider me now. Please now, things are rough now. How did they sustain the economy? That would have been the first thing we should have done. Find out how they sustain the economy. Find out how they do the equitable trading, like he's saying now. That's like putting the cart before the horse. Okay, if you have done that, you should have done the right thing in the proper place before borrowing. Find out why you should borrow, not just to borrow so that it will be looted out. You finish borrowing, now you're looking for debt cancellation. It would have been a case of, before you borrow, what am I going to use the money for? Okay, I'm going to use the money to buy a trade. How is the trade going to affect and boost the economy to the point that you can repay it conveniently? Now that is the question. Not to just borrow, okay, let me just borrow and keep, let's use it to do what we call recurrent expenditure. Like, seriously, how are we going to get out of the debt? How are we going to pay it up? borrowing into the next generation and generations unborn. Now, what are we doing? Are we not encouraging the international community to look at as dependent people who are not even economically and financially sustainable or matured enough, to sustain the economy? Now, that is not a good one, coming from the fact that we have been sovereign, we have been since 1960, for crying out loud. We've been an independent nation, and up till now we are still, you know, behaving like babies suckling their mother's mammary glands. Please, come on. Now, 33 billion, where are we going to start cancelling, really? But we want to still wake up a hand borrowing again. Now, with all the things that they keep hearing on social media, on headlines, how they've been looting, some of these lootings are done openly. As in, you keep hearing things like NDDC allocated things like something like Biro in billions or in millions. You begin to wonder, pen writing paper in millions. You have things like Jesus, what they call that name of that? In fact, Jesus, one of those companies. I don't even understand some of these subtitles they usually put to pushing, some of these, corrupt practices. If you want to go one on and on, you now realize that Nigerian situation is very serious. It's a case of this your debt, this your corruption is mild compared to the bigger ones. It's not as if they've not seen your corruption. Your own is nothing compared to the ones that are at their table, and you're still screaming, "This one is too big," and then they tell you that one, these ones are bigger. Now, where are we going to come from here? All those monies we've borrowed, how are we going to pay them back? We borrowed them because we believe, or they gave us because, okay, these guys are in their need of money, okay, and they need to sustain, they need to develop. So, okay, let's borrow them. Their plans looks legit, it looks real, it looks reasonable, achievable. Let's give it to them, so that we'll give them a moratorium of 3 years or 2 years, so that they would have been able to reap back some of the benefits of the loans that they can repay. But at last, that's not what we're saying. Now, by the time the repayment will come, we're borrowing now for the current expenditure, paying salaries and all that. Then, by the time we will now say, okay, fine, it's time to repay this loan. Some of them are actually enjoying moratorium, or enjoying moratorium. Imagine when we're done with the moratorium, all the loans, repayments, repayment schedules, all being sunk into our budget. And we're going to still pay salaries to some of our civil servants. How do we survive? Well, our naira have been depreciated to about 400 to a dollar. Come on, come on. We need a messiah right now. We need a messiah that will honestly salvage Nigeria where it is. And it's not going to be rocket. It's not going to be an easy task. It's not going to be A for apple. It's going to go beyond that. In fact, it's sounding more like rocket science in my ears right now. Let's put in the comment section what's to take on the fact that we are now thinking of debt cancellation after $33 billion. I wonder the magic.